Hey YouTube. One more thing I'm going to finish up, and I was going to wait until I moved. I'm sure some of you have noticed that there's a huge pile of boxes behind me, and they've been there for a few videos. I was supposed to be moving about a month ago. As it turns out, I'm getting ready to do so tomorrow, so last video in this place. I'm going to finish up with Genesis for now. I might add more later, but this one isn't going to be as much about immorality specifically as just some real big problems. So we'll call this one biblical discrepancies. There's a few specific points that kind of spread across Genesis 6 through Genesis 9. Starting out with, and I'm sure there's so much, I'm not going to read it all, but this is between Genesis 6 and Genesis 9, follow through if you like. Talks about the sons of God and the daughters of men. Now, many of you may or may not have heard about this. This is referred to as the Nephilim in some groups or in some translations. And the weird thing is, some people try to say that I've actually heard this go so far in the defense that I've actually heard somebody say that they believe they were aliens. I mean, usually the response is they're angels, and I'm like, alright, whatever. You kind of throw the word angel around like, whatever. Oh, that person the other day was such an angel, they helped me, and I'm meaning that in the literal sense, not just in the term of endearment. So, they're talking about sons of God and daughters of men. They actually give these two different terms, identifying that there is, in fact, like a separation, not like Narnia speak. You'll laugh if you know what I'm talking about. And at one point they're even saying that they're marrying each other, like it came down to marry them and stuff like that. Which, if they were all humans, as some people try to say, well, they were just talking about, you know, that's how they said it. Men, and women, and, you know, God, men are of God and all that kind of crap. I don't buy that. Because they specifically talk about, you know, they would go and marry and intermingle and make these men, their offspring were men of great renown and stuff. And it's more like they're referring to the names of Greek mythology, perhaps some Roman. I'm more familiar with Greek myself, so I'm not sure. But like, you know, Agamemnon and Hercules and that kind of stuff. These were the men of great renown, which preceded the tales of the Bible. So that's kind of where that sounds like that stems from. Anyway, I haven't even started with Noah's Ark yet. Their days will be 120 years, God says. Well, average lifespan is not 120 years. It's, what, 80, maybe? And just, you know, not too long ago it was only 65 and 70. So, flaw in the Bible. We don't live to be 120 years old. And if we do, the last one I heard about was a 125-year-old woman who smoked marijuana. And she actually attributed her longevity of life to smoking marijuana. That doesn't sound like somebody who would be like, oh, well, she was one of God's chosen. No. So don't go there with that defense. Now, here's a very interesting part specifically. Now, depending on which translation you use, which version of the Bible, it says that God, or the Lord, regretted. And in other words, it says repented and grieved as well. Now, repented, I found that one to be very interesting, but taking it in context, as you're supposed to. Regretted. How can the Lord ever regret? He is supposedly all-knowing, knows everything from the beginning of time to the end of time. To regret something means that you have made an action that you are sorry for. So the only real answer is that God knew he was going to do something that he was going to regret. And that ties into a lot of the previous videos about God's omniscience and all-powerful and sin and all that kind of stuff. I won't go into that here, even though I should, because it's Genesis. Now, another point that I want to make is God says he will destroy everything. Now, in particular, there are two lines. It's kind of scattered. This one's in Genesis 7. And it says specifically that he would destroy every living substance that God made. Now, if that were the case, people keep talking about, well, there's proof of blah, blah, blah. Yeah, you can talk about there being a great flood all you want and try to prove that, and that's already not accurate, a global flood at least. But further, if you actually are believing this crap because it's literal, and that's why you are insisting that it's true, then this is also literal, in that he says, I will destroy every living substance that I made. God's saying that I will destroy every living substance that I made. This covers two things. One, that after the flood, there could be no life. There could be nothing. Because to destroy something means it's destroyed. I mean, I don't even, it's no longer, it no longer exists. I don't know how else to put that. So if everything is destroyed, where did all of the stuff come from to repopulate all the earth with all the plants and all the animals? I mean, now the animals came on board, and I'll get to that in a minute, but what are the animals going to eat? They have no vegetation to munch on, the herbivores, and the carnivores, well, there's no other animals, so they're going to have to, what, just quickly eat what came on the ark, and then what? What's left for the generations after? Can't reproduce that quickly. So, I mean, right there, there's a huge problem, and I haven't even gotten to the size of the ark, which is, in and of itself, a massive problem, which, I'll do that right now. It talks about everything in cubits. Now, if you go to some websites, some theologists' websites, I just kind of think about that word theology, and I think, what does that really mean? Absolutely nothing. Your cubit is measured from a man's elbow to his wrist. There were a few different types of standard cubits. There would be like a city cubit or something like that. Would have a cubit set. The idea was still based on elbow to wrist. So you're looking at roughly 1.5 to 2 feet, and also remember people were shorter back then, evidently. So average was 1.5 feet. I took the cubits and went all the way up to I either did 1.8 or 2 feet exactly, I don't remember, to do the math, going for the high end, to make sure that I was giving fair, high ballpark estimates here. The maximum size of the ark would only be 500 feet long, 83 feet wide, and 50 feet tall. Now, in addition to this wasn't like it was one big massive space. It was also divided between 3 levels with 1 door in the side, and there was it was supposed to have a roof, and it says there was supposed to be a window set in there somewhere. I didn't write that part down. But, massive square footage. I don't need to tell anyone who has made it through at least, like, junior high school, anywhere. I'm trying to even think, like, even homeschool. I was homeschooled, dude, and even I know that there are way more animals around that could be fit on the ark. Now, that's not even including, they were in this ark for 150 days, I think. How many meals needed to be eaten? How many poo-poos needed to be taken, and who was doing all the shoveling? And if there's only one window out the front, where's the poop going? Where's all the pee going? Did they just stick a hole in the ark and let it drain out the side, which was coming out by the gallons, I'm sure, with all those animals? How did they keep the animals from eating each other? I mean, very basic questions that even kids ask. And, Christians actually buy this crap as though it's even feasible. Which, of course, then they always respond with, well, anything's possible with God. Well, what the hell's the point of the charade? If you're going to make a dude do all this stuff and get animals and have specific numbers for a specific purpose, for specific reasons, on specific days, then why are you just going to, like, suddenly say, oh, he just bent physics and space and time and all that crap to make sure it fit? Absolutely doesn't make sense. And if you want to just believe something arbitrarily for crap reasons, knock yourself out. But this is showing that in all scientific ways, this is not possible that this actually happened. And then, oh, before I go on to the next part, somebody has actually tried to defend the Noah's Ark story, the size problem, with saying that he didn't actually have to bring all the animals, that it was only animals like to his region, because it would be implied that that's what God meant. And I'm like, well, first off, you're putting words in the Bible that aren't there. It never says God implied anything. God said take 2 of all. All is all. I mean, trying to turn that into something else just shows how biased you are towards defending something that you want to make real, but it isn't on its own. You actually have to twist and pull and stretch and force and hammer and chisel crap into what you want it to mean just to try to make your shit fit. It's retarded, dude. Yeah, it says all. It's just there's no other way to take that unless you're just bullshitting yourself. Simple as that. Now the really interesting part, what most people forget, is it's not just the 2 of every kind. There was also 7 of every clean beast, and then it says 7 of all the birds as well. So just massive. I mean, an impossible amount of animals. And then there's, of course, the thing about salt water and fresh water. People will argue, well, you didn't need to take, marine life, because that stuff's in the water. I'm like, okay, genius. Salt water and fresh water, you can't just mix the 2. So what happened there? And the water that was coming forth from the fountains of the earth. I'm like, the fountains of the earth? What fountains of the earth? This is just more nonsense. It was springing, and this is where Nephilim Free, that psycho asshole on YouTube, actually talks about water shooting out of Earth's atmosphere and turning into ice in space and hitting the moon and causing the craters. Here, side note, personal note, right here, just for me, to you, Nephilim Free, you are a fucking psycho. I hope someone puts you away, or you just get knocked the fuck out permanently, dude. You scare the shit out of me. Anyway, so, last but not least, I love how this story ends. Noah gets drunk. This is after everything else is said and done. Noah gets drunk, naked, he falls asleep, and it says that Ham, he's got 3 sons. What is it? Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Ham walks in and sees him naked. Says, saw his father's nakedness. He goes and tells his brothers that his father's passed out naked or whatever, about what had happened. They walk in with a covering, a shawl or whatever, backwards so they don't see his nakedness, put it on him, and leave. Noah wakes up, gets pissed at Ham for having seen his nakedness apparently, and curses Ham's son. So Noah curses his own grandson for what Ham did. And I'm like, first off, what the hell are you cursing the dude for anyway? Ham is the one who saw you naked. I mean, and what's the big deal about seeing people naked? Accidents happen. They turn this one little incident into like this huge thing. But more than that, he curses his grandson for what his father did. What the fuck kind of punishment is that? Seriously. This is like the same kind of stupid shit you read about right at the beginning of the Bible, where God curses all of mankind for what 2 people did, well, technically, 1 person did, and then started the ball rolling, at the beginning of time. This whole idea of guilt by blood. Are you fucking stupid that you actually think that that's acceptable behavior? To blame someone who isn't even born yet for the crimes of their ancestors. And if you actually think that that's logical, if you can actually put that in your brain as a logical way to construct a fair legal system, then it's no wonder you're a theist, because you are stupid on a fundamental level. So, that's all I had. Done with Genesis, I think, for now at least. Next up is going to be Predestination. Going to have fun with that one. Bye, YouTube.